Hey guys, Jason here. I want to first say thank you so much for watching this morning. I want to share a couple quick announcements before we jump in. The first thing is today at 5 p.m. at the Dayton Community Center, we are so excited to have our very next interest meeting. Now, this is an opportunity for you to learn more about the heart and vision behind Freedom Church, to understand what we're doing over the course of the next couple of months as we lean into our launch in September. And it's also an opportunity for you to learn how you can be a part by joining our launch team. And so again, that's 5 o'clock today at the Dayton Community Center. We're so excited to host you. So far, we've had such a great response. We have over 90 people signed up to come out, and so we're just really pumped about that. Of course, we're going to do everything we can to make sure things are safe and abide by any rules with COVID. So we'll have masks if you want to wear those. We'll do our best to social distance, but we're inviting you and your families to come out today. We're so excited about that. We're going to have this one, and we're going to have one more on July 19th. And that'll be the last one that we have until we launch in September, so we would love to see your family out there. The second thing is next Sunday, I'm so excited to be able to go back to our home church at New Covenant Church in Longview, Texas. I'll be bringing the word that week at New Covenant, and so we'd love for you to tune in there. You can go to wearencc.com, and you'll be able to watch that service at 9:30 or at 11:15. And so just want to tell you, we're pumped to be able to go back and visit some friends, and really just to be back home at our home church. Now, I was at New Covenant Church for 7 years before coming to Dayton to launch Freedom Church, and so it is very much home to us. That's our pastors there, and we love New Covenant, and we are so excited to be a part of that. I do want to tell you that what we've been talking about the last few weeks, it has been this book that I wrote about 2 years ago called Battle for Yourself, Your Marriage, and for Your Family. And it's all about really especially teaching men how to step up and take that place as the strong man, as the warrior for your home, learning how to fight against the enemy as he tries to attack your home. Now, like I said before, while I wrote it for a man, for a man's mindset, I want you to know, if you're a woman or if you're a young person, you're going to get a lot from this. It's going to teach you how to fight against the enemy as he does all the different things that he does to try to jack everything up. I mean, don't you know Satan is constantly after you? He's constantly wanting to destroy everything God's trying to build in your life. And it's important that we learn how to fight against the enemy. Don't forget that James tells us that if we resist the devil, he'll flee. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say this every single time I can. Resisting doesn't necessarily mean that you have all the tools to defeat the enemy in that moment. The Bible doesn't say defeat the enemy and he'll flee. It just says resist. Because I want you to know that God is fighting with us. He's fighting these battles. And there's something else that we're going to talk about today that is a huge tool in our arsenal, and it's something called the Army. Now, I don't know how old you are, but a while back, around the turn of the millennium at 2000, around the early 2000s, the Army came out with this new slogan, and every single military man that I've talked to hates it, and it was this: the Army of One. Now, a lot of people hate that because it's kind of counterintuitive to me, especially because I'm thinking, when you go to the Army, when you're in boot camp, they shave everybody's head, they give you all the same clothes, they feed you the same stuff, they expect you to go through the same training. It's like they are intentionally removing individualism from the soldier. And they're doing that, though, for a specific reason, because they want you to think as a unit and not as an individual. Now, we definitely are individuals, and the individual aspect is very important. When you're in your family, you're not necessarily, as the husband, as the man, you're not just like automatically everybody else, and you don't have your own individuality or anything like that. The same thing with the woman. It's not that you lose your individuality per se, but you put other things ahead of your individuality, namely your unit if you're in the Army. And for our terms, we're going to call the unit the family. So it's super important that you never put your needs over your unit, over your family. When we do that, what happens is that's where Satan begins to operate and move in our lives, because it creates these spaces where darkness lives, and that's where Satan gets to traffic. So we should never put our needs over the needs of the unit. And this doesn't mean necessarily, look, I'm not talking about staying in abusive relationships. Like, if you're getting beat on a regular basis, my goodness, I'm definitely saying you need to get some help there. So that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, before you go do something that's going to have a drastic impact on your family, you need to be sure you're thinking, how does this impact my family. Every single decision you make as a leader in your home needs to go through this lens, go through this funnel of, is this going to have a negative impact on my family? I think it's important that we see both the positive and the negative impacts on our family. I know my parents for a long time, they would tell me that anytime I had a decision that I needed to make that was difficult, I needed to make a pro-con list. Write all the pros on one side, all the cons on the other side. If the pros outweigh the cons, let's go. If the cons outweigh the pros, well then let's not go. And I think the same thing needs to happen in our decision-making process when it comes to our families. You know, it's super easy to be at work and to be constantly surrounded people, especially of the opposite sex. And maybe somebody is really, really funny in your office and you just find yourself attracted to that humor. It's very, very easy to get into a situation where you are getting life out of that relationship, or at least you think you're getting life out of that relationship, and Satan uses that to begin to do some things inside. All of a sudden you begin to put your wants over the needs of your family, of your unit, and that's where problems come in. That's where problems happen. Maybe it's spending money that you shouldn't spend. Maybe it's adding something to the family environment that you shouldn't be adding. But we've got to make sure that we're thinking about how the decisions we make impact our families. You know, one of Satan's best traps for men especially is this trap of isolation. It's this idea that we have to go it alone, that nobody's going to help us. And I know as a man that a lot of times there are moments where I'm under intense pressure to make a decision. And one of the easiest things for me to do is just to make the decision and go on with it and not think about how it affects anybody. But that's the way that the enemy wants you to operate, because we tend to operate out of our feeling and out of gut reactions in those moments instead of actual like spirit-led moments, instead of thinking through the process, thinking through how it's going to impact people. But you know, the enemy wants you in a place, especially men, I'm talking to you especially, where you have this mindset where you think, I don't need people checking in on me. I'm good. Don't worry about it. I can handle this pressure. You know, it's really hard a lot of times for people to admit a vulnerability or a fault or a failure. You know, my goodness, you see men crying and all of a sudden we automatically think that they're weak just because they're expressing emotion. But I'm telling you something, that is a trap that Satan wants you to get into, because he wants you making decisions that have drastic negative impacts on your family. And one of the best ways he does that is by creating isolation inside of you. Here's what the Bible says in Proverbs 18:1. Whoever isolates himself seeks his own desire. He breaks out against all sound judgment. So let me just take a moment here and say to you that if you're in a place right now where you feel like you're isolated and alone, look, I'm not saying that it's your fault that you're in that isolation. I'm not saying that's your fault necessarily at all. But what I am saying is that staying that way is your fault. Staying that way is. You may not have any control over you getting to isolation or you getting to that alone feeling, but you definitely have control over whether or not you stay in that. And the best way to get out of isolation and being alone is to reach out for help. Now listen, that's going to cause you to deal with some things inside. That's going to have to get you to a place where you're willing to say, look, this is what's happened. And you have to be willing to understand that you might be to blame in some of that situation. But you've just got to make a decision. Do you want to get better? Do you want to succeed? Do you want your family whole and healthy? Do you want the enemy defeated? And if you do, it means that you're going to have to be willing to reach out for help. I want to reference a character that we've been referencing this entire time. It's David as he fought against Goliath. I want to tell you a few things about David that I find interesting. The first thing is that while it looks like David was alone and isolated, David was not alone and he was not isolated. You know, even on the cover of my book, I have this illustration of David about to launch that rock against the giant, and you have David there by himself, and you have the giant by himself, and it looks like David's all alone. But you know what? That's not really what was happening in that moment. While David and Goliath may have been alone in that valley, there were two armies. There was one in front of David and there was one behind David. And you need to understand that you may have a giant in front of you and he may have an army behind him, but you know something? You have the opportunity to have an army behind you as well. And that's the way that God actually wants you to live your life. He wants you to live your life where you're standing, you got the giant there, God's fighting against the giant in the valley, and you may see the army in front, but you need to understand that you've got an army behind you. That army is available to you, but you have to tap into that army. That means you've got to reach out. That means you have to engage. Like we talked about last week, you have to voluntarily put yourself in a position where the army can have an impact on what's going on in your world. The last thing you need to think that you're in when you're walking across that valley to face that giant is that you are alone and you have to do every single thing on your own. That's just not the truth. Number one, God will never leave you. He will never forsake you. And a lot of times where you feel like, man, I just don't feel like God's here in this moment, it could be because you're up on the hill and God's in the valley fighting your giant. That might be why you can't necessarily feel the presence of God in that moment. It could be that he's there fighting for you. You've got to do your job. You've got to do your responsibility and run into that valley and chase the enemy away after that giant falls. So the thing is, David was not alone. He was not alone. He had an army behind him. But secondly, David didn't deny the army behind him, right? Not only did he recognize that God was there to fight, but he recognized that Goliath was not defying David. He was defying the army of the living God. That's what we see in that passage in 1 Samuel 17. Goliath was spouting all this venom against the armies of the living God. And so David recognized that. He called that out in that moment and said, hey, you're not fighting against me. You're trying to fight against the army of the living God. He recognized the guys who were standing behind him. Now listen, they were scared to death. They were shaking in their boots. I understand that. But I think it's super important that we realize here in this moment that if we ever feel like we're in the valley alone, if we ever feel like we're having to face this army alone, we have to realize, we have to recognize that we have the opportunity to tap into an army that's behind us. Another thing about David that I think is really interesting is that David didn't try to be someone else. He didn't try to fight in a way that was not accustomed to him. He didn't try to fight in a way that wasn't him. He didn't try to use somebody else's tactics. We see this when David was putting on Saul's armor. I mean, David put it on. He took a few steps. There's no way that armor would have worked. But David knew himself enough, and he trusted in God enough to say, you know what? That's not how I'm supposed to fight. I'm supposed to fight in the way that God has shown me. And so what I want to tell you is that you need to be careful that you aren't trying to fight like somebody else with someone else's armor, with someone else's technique. See, God made you for the battle that you would face. And what you probably don't realize is just like David was trained to fight Goliath by fighting the lions and tigers and bears, oh my, you were trained to fight the battles that God wants you to fight by all the little skirmishes that you've had along the way. These are opportunities to build your faith, to strengthen your ability to pray, to strengthen your ability to war against the enemy. All of these little things that you've had to deal with and you've had to face, even some of the big things have taught you lessons that are monumentally important to helping you fight the giant that you're facing right now. You were made for this battle. You were made for it. And God is not only fighting with you, He's giving you the tools along the way to help you overcome the enemy. I think it's amazing that all the stuff that God uses to train us, it probably blows our minds. Stuff that we thought was worthless. You know what? Stuff that was even sin in your life. Bad relationships, missteps, situations where you've gotten yourself into problems. All of these things are God teaching you how to fight against the enemy, how to fight the giant that you're facing right now. And so I want you to understand that all of these battles that you're maybe engaged in right now, all the things that are going on, all of those battles in the past have taught you how to fight right now. And I want to encourage you that while you can take some of these techniques and you can take some of these different things we talk about and apply those to the battle, I want you to know that God has prepared you for this fight. It's just time for you to step up and do it. And I'm saying what? I believe in you. And God believes in you. And you know something? God's behind you. And He's with you. And He's going to help you fight this battle. I want you to know that you have it inside of you through Jesus Christ and the power of the Holy Spirit. You have what it takes to defeat the enemy. Lastly, I think it's important that we understand that David did not defeat the army that was in front of him that day. David may have killed Goliath, but he did not destroy the army. Who did that? The army behind him. The army behind him did. And so this is what I'm telling you right now. If you are going to win in life, if you're going to succeed in not only life, but in your Christian life, if you're going to succeed as a father or a mother or a child, a student, if you're going to succeed as a person, you have to have a team. You have to have a team. There's no other way that you're going to be able to succeed unless you have a team. Your ceiling is always going to be as high as you can reach, but whenever you get a team of people around you, your ceiling is exponentially higher. That means that you can do more for Jesus. You can go further. You may go faster by yourself, but you're always going to go further with the team. And sometimes they're going to need your faith. Sometimes you're going to be the David marching into the valley, and you're going to be encouraging the people behind you, but sometimes you're going to need their faith. There are going to be moments in your life where you desperately need the faith that your team has to offer you. So let me just share with you quickly just a few reasons, 4 reasons here why you need a team. The first one is this: a team will kill pride in your life. I don't know if you know this, but every single sin can go back to pride. It's the one that started this all off. But the opposite of pride we see is humility. And what humility says is that you need a team. Now, when I first thought about that, I thought, well, humility, does it really say you need a team? Let me tell you something. Humility, it kills things inside of you. Humility gets you to a place where you can understand and say, you know what? I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. You know what? I can't do everything on my own. I've come to a realization in my own life that there are certain things that I'm fully capable of doing by myself. I can shoulder them on my own. I can get through them on my own. But there are so many things in life, in my marriage, in my family life, in my work life, in my pastoral ministry. There are so many things that I can't do by myself. And I can either be prideful and allow pride to make me struggle, or I can be filled with humility and realize that I don't have all the answers and that I can't do everything on my own, that I do need a team. I do need a team helping me kill pride in my life, because here's what I've realized is that pride will make you struggle, but humility will help you win. You've got to make a decision right now in your own heart. Do I want to keep struggling, or do I want to win? And if you're going to win, it's going to take humility, and that team will help kill pride inside of you. So that's the first thing. Team will kill pride in your life. The second thing is team provides support. I love this verse in 2 Corinthians. It says, 2 Corinthians 12, 9 through 11. My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I'm content with weakness, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. Here's the thing. You were not made to carry the burden alone. You just simply weren't made for that. And one of the best decisions that you can make as you approach a battle is to simply reach out for help. Ask your team for help. You need to mobilize your army in that moment and win. Now, as we read this verse in 2 Corinthians, we see that when we're weak, that our strength comes from God. But can I tell you something? Most times, the strength that we get from God is not necessarily this supernatural, miraculous download from heaven, like this light beam that just shoots down over us and all of a sudden we feel strong. A lot of times, and in my life, I'll tell you most times, that strength comes from the team of people that I have around me. And whenever I tell them what's going on and I open the doors so they can see into my house and see what's going on in my situation, it's the life that they speak into me that gives me strength. It's the prayer. It's the faith. It's the, hey, I'm with you and we're praying and we're fighting this together. That's what gives me strength. And that is God in that moment strengthening you, empowering you. But you need to know that God uses a team all the time for that. That's one of the main reasons you have a team, is because they provide support that you would never get on your own. And so it's super important in that moment to understand that, you know what? I am going to get to a place in my life where I'm not going to be able to handle every single situation. I'm not going to be able to handle it on my own. But this is why God created friendships and brotherhood and sisterhood. This is why God created a team, because he knew that you would need a team in these moments. You need that support in these moments. And can I tell you something? If you needed just another reason, just a final proof to say why you need a team for support, it's simply this. Even Jesus had a team. And I'm going to tell you right now, if the Son of God, who's the perfect Lamb that was slain for the sins of the world and rose again on the third day and has offered salvation to every single person that's ever breathed air, I want you to know something, that if he needed a team, I probably need a team too. So it's important to get one. The third thing is that a team provides accountability. Now, I definitely mean accountability in terms of like what you're looking at online or the music or movies or whatever, stuff like that. But I want you to also know that a team is really great at helping you see blind spots. Now, every single person on earth has blind spots. We all have blind spots. And you don't know what you don't know. And that's a part of why a team is so important, because they can help you see what you don't know. People around you who are on the outside of your own personal thought processes can help identify blind spots in your life. Here's what the Bible tells us in Proverbs 27:6. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, profuse are the kisses of an enemy. Now, how can a wound from a friend be faithful? Well, here's how. It's better a real friend tell you something that might hurt, but that you need to hear, and they do it in love and kindness with your best interests in mind, as opposed to a so-called friend telling you what you want to hear and then really letting the pain come. That's the difference. A team can help you see things in your life that you're not seeing. And I'm telling you what, that provides a level of accountability that you need in your life. And lastly, is that team is a kingdom term. Team is a kingdom term. The Bible tells us in Matthew 6:33, very famous verse, seek first the kingdom of God. See, nothing helps you seek the kingdom of God like a team. There was a situation at New Covenant Church several years back where Stephen, who is the senior pastor of the church now, at that time he was an executive pastor, and he kept saying this word. He kept saying guy all the time. Like, guy, let's go to the store. Or, guy, have you done that work yet? Or, guy, have you finished that? Now, I think he got it from somebody else, but he started saying it, and then everybody on staff started saying, I still say it today. Like, guy, what are you doing? I say it all the time, and we said it all the time. In fact, we had to kind of limit how many times we said guy, because meetings became like, guy, did you do that? Guy, did you do that? Well, let me just tell you something. Whatever you're around, like all the people you're around, that's how you're going to become. And whatever they're saying, you're probably going to start saying. However they're acting, you're probably going to start acting like that. Whatever they're doing, you're probably going to start doing. So how does that transfer into us spiritually? Is if you're around people who are seeking the kingdom of God, you're going to seek the kingdom of God. It's going to come as a natural byproduct of that relationship. So a team is all about helping you seeking the kingdom first. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you want a very simple way to win in life, it's seek the kingdom first. Because God promises us, Jesus himself said this, that if you will seek the kingdom first, everything else that you need is going to be added. Just seek the kingdom first. See, the fatal flaw of man is his unwillingness to ask for help. It's not weakness. It's not even the sinful nature part, because God fixes all that. God can give you strength when you're weak. God can give you grace and mercy and salvation when you sin. But the only thing that God really can't do in this equation is help you if you don't ask for it. And that's the fatal flaw. I mean, if we would just think for a second about like the last 30 days of what's going on in our life, how many things would be different if we just simply asked for help? In fact, how would the whole world be different right now if Adam had a group of guys around him that were able to challenge him on whether or not he should even be looking at that tree, much less eating from it? How would life be different if he had a team around him in the garden? Let me ask you something. How would your life be different in the last 30 days if you had a team on your side? If you had an army behind you, encouraging you, building you up, strengthening you, encouraging you, supporting you, making you, holding you accountable. If they were doing all those things, how would your life be different? Listen, you need to find an army. You need to find a team. It's essential in your growth with Christ. It's essential in your walk with Jesus. And I want you to know at Freedom Church, we want to be a part of helping you find that team. We desperately want to help you find that team. And I'm telling you, this is not something that I just should recommend. It's not something I think you ought to do at some point. You need this. You need this. So what is a team? It's a group of people who love you, who love God, who know you, who know God, and who have your best interest in mind. Listen, you need a team. Let's forget this army of one mess. Let's forget this army of one business. And let's start thinking, be all you can be. See, that was another slogan the Army used all those years back. Be all that you can be. And you know the way that you can be all you can be? Get a team. You need a team. Can we pray together for a moment? Father, I thank you so much for today. God, I thank you that you created life like this, that you created life in such a way where we in and of ourselves don't have everything we need, that we become weak in moments, that we sometimes are faithless, that we sometimes are low when it comes to encouragement. But God, you've created a system whereby we need each other. You said it about Adam so long ago that it's not good for man to be alone. And God, it's not good for man to be alone now, not just in terms of a spouse, but in terms of a team. And so God, I'm asking you right now in the name of Jesus that as the people that are watching are praying in this moment, God, I pray that you begin to bring people into their mind right now, that names and faces would begin to flow into their mind of people who know them, who know you, who love them, who love you, God, and who have their best interests in mind. And God, I pray that you would give each person a supernatural measure of courage to reach out and to make that team a reality. God, I thank you for the team in my life. I thank you for the people that you provided in my life to help me become everything that you've called me to be. And I'm asking you in the name of Jesus that you will speak to the people who are listening right now, and that you would encourage them and build them up and give them the courage they need to reach out and develop the team that you've called for them, God. We thank you for it. We love you so much, Jesus. And it's in your name we pray. Amen. Look, I want to encourage you right now that if you don't know what to do in terms of a next step, like how do you even get a team? Like, do you just walk up to somebody and say, hey, can you be on my team? Like if you're confused about that or want some information or some guidance on that, we would love for you to go to freedomdtx.com/connect and let us know. We are more than happy, more than willing to reach out and to help you in terms of developing a team. But maybe today you've realized that you need to be on the first team, and that's the team Jesus. You need to make Jesus Christ Lord of your life. If that's you today, will you please just fill out that form at freedomdtx.com/connect. Tell us about it. Look, we're not going to spam you, no, we're not going to bug you. We just want to be sure that you have all the tools that you need as you step out and start this brand new life with Jesus. I want you to know that salvation is not the end. It's the beginning of the best life you've ever lived. It's the best decision you've ever made, and we want to celebrate that with you. If you want to get baptized, if you want to know more about being baptized in the Holy Spirit, maybe you want to know about our interest party that's coming up tonight at 5 p.m. Listen, I want all of that information in your hands, and I want to help you with that. So go to freedomdtx.com/connect and let us know. Hey, listen, I hope you have a great week. If you need anything this week, be sure to jump online and message us. We're happy to do whatever we can to help you. I want you to know we're praying for you. We're believing God's best for you this week. And if you have the opportunity to next week, we would love for you to tune in at 9:30 to wearencc.com and watch at New Covenant Church as I share the word. I'm so excited to be back home at New Covenant, and we invite you to come check that out with us. All right? God bless you. Have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday. Hey guys, Jason Cowart here. I'm the lead pastor of a brand new church launching in September right here in Dayton, Texas called Freedom Church. Now, I believe every single person on earth has a God-given purpose. And if you're breathing air right now, if you're watching this video, I'm talking to you. And at Freedom Church, we're big about purpose. We're big about discovering your purpose and giving you a space to walk that out, because we really believe that once you meet Jesus and you discover that purpose, that's when you find real freedom. That's why I want to invite you to our next interest meeting. It's going to happen right here at the Dayton Community Center on June 28th at 5 p.m. We just want to take about 30 minutes and share the heart and vision of Freedom Church, and we want to give you the opportunity to see what we're doing over the next couple of months as we lean into our launch in September. Again, that's Sunday, June 28th, 5 p.m. right here at the Dayton Community Center. We'd love for you to visit freedomdtx.com/kickoff to get more information and to register. God bless you, and we hope to see you there.